I've owned a lot of drum machines. Model samples set several tracks on fire off the shoulder of Orion, their cousin the Digitact following. I watched the Polyen tracker glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser gate, SP404s firing dank beats in salute. But all those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to Volca Drum. But first, let's talk about gear acquisition syndrome, otherwise known as gas. I'm glad I can't smell whatever just happened. So if you clicked on this video, you, like me, probably want to buy more gear to make music with. Also like me, if you're in the synth world with expensive things, you probably have some sort of draining job that takes a lot of your time and by which you obtain the money to buy said synths. That's capitalism, baby! So I've bought and sold a lot of gear. Everything in the intro, as well as a ton of different synths and things, just searching for something that would be really enjoyable and playful to use. Trying to get more complex things, more involved things, and just sit down and learn them. But after so long, after buying so many complex, incredibly confusing things, I finally got something simple. You thought I was going to talk about the Volca Drum? No, I gotta waste more of your time with meandering philosophical synth takes. So this is the microfreak. You may be wondering, why are you showing this? This is definitely not a drum. It's actually a synthesizer. Well, the microfreak is basically the Volca Drum of melodic synthesizers. It's a very simplified engine. You've got the three things you can tweak here. You get to pick an engine, you have your envelope. It's like everything's very straightforward. You're sort of let loose to do whatever within your sequencer. It's not a perfect comparison, but to me, it feels right. And here on my channel, where I say my opinions, I'm gonna say it, because it's my channel. If you don't like it, get your own. And look, I've bought so many complicated things. Things that sound fantastic but don't look right. Things that look right but don't sound fantastic. Things that fall outside of the basic knowledge that I have and just confuse me, that I would need like a degree in synth rocketry to use. That's not to say I've done no learning at all. Like I've bought Synthorial, and I've gone through it for a little bit, and I've learned a bunch through osmosis. But even after all that, like buying a ton of virtual instruments, I own 2 DAWs, actually 3 DAWs, but I've recorded more music with the humble ukulele than anything else. I've used digital audio workstations and VSTs to make produced songs, but that's sort of a work to get output thing and not a make stuff for fun thing to me. It's just less enjoyable. Now, you might ask, why? Even if you don't, I'm gonna answer, because this is not a choose your own adventure video, it's mine. But it's because the humble ukulele has the lowest struggle to noise ratio for me. Like I've used a bunch of fancy pedals and synths too, and I've taken the time to like write patches, learn how to patch everything, but even with that, I don't use them because that work's an extra step. And I never want to take that extra step when I'm making music. And if you're stuck in a gas loop, you also probably don't want to take that step. There's this idea that getting the fanciest and most flexible thing is the best thing. But the best actual synth instrument that I've had, that I used for a long time, is the original circuit, not the tracks, because it doesn't have a speaker. The circuit. The newer one's fancier and it has more features, but it's not as immediate to me. And like, what will be immediate to you will vary between people. So I'm going to talk about the Korg Volca Drum in this, but it's possible that that won't work for you. Like, I have a Korg Op6, and I love the Korg Op6. It's not super immediate, but it's way more immediate to me than a bunch of normal subtractive synthesizers that I own. And that's just like my preferences, how I want to tweak sound. In my experience, if you can see and use something immediately, even if you get distracted from music, if you like go do stuff, you have like your normal job or whatever, you can just jump back into it and still have fun with the thing. And when I'm looking at things to see if I should buy them, I don't usually think, what if I get distracted and go do some other bullshit? But we should, because life takes precedence over synths. And I'll be honest, like, I don't want to choose that immediate thing. There's a sort of elitism I experience internally where everyone thinks that I'm really smart, so I have to pick the fancy, the smart thing so that I can prop up that belief and still feel that I'm smart. But it's okay to be dumb about hobbies. And that's something that I needed to learn, and I think that's something that a lot of people in gas spirals need to learn. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about the Volca Drum of drums. I like it. I like it a lot. To give you some context on how I use drums, when I'm using VSTs for drums, I'll use either Atlas or Microtonic. That's basically it. Atlas for samples, and Microtonic if I want to actually sculpt drums. I prefer to use Microtonic though. With the patternarium, it feels like you can get to most places you want easily, and then you can tweak the sounds in ways you can't necessarily tweak samples. And as someone who really likes Microtonic, the Volca Drum's the closest thing I've found to Microtonic in a box, randomizer and all. No, the PO32 doesn't count, it only gives you macros, that's cheating. The other important part of the drum for me is its 6-part multi-timbral, and because of active step, you can make it polyrhythmic really easily. That's why I first got it. I have the subharmonicon and I bought the DFAM to pair with the subharmonicon for polyrhythmic jams. But I wanted to try something else because the DFAM's really one note. And between the DFAM and the Volca Drum, I both prefer how the Volca Drum sounds, and I like having a lot of parts. You can protest in the comments if you want, you're wrong. The other fun thing about the Volca Drum is you can edit a bunch of step options per step also. So that combined with the polyrhythmic parts means that you can really make it feel like a single 16-step loop is way more complex and varied. I'll be honest too, the Volca Drum's the only way I could learn step components. I've actually repicked up the circuit rhythm, and what I've learned from the Volca Drum's really applicable. It's helped me use the rhythm more effectively. I was going to also summarize the sound engine here, but AudioPilz did a video on the Volca Drum, and they did it like 50 times better than I could. So if you need to know what's happening there, just watch his video, I'll link it. But I think the sound engine is great, it's really easy to work with and figure out even without a manual, and it's surprisingly flexible. The TLDR summaries, it's a 2-part engine with 6 settings per part, and then 5 additional effects per part, all going into this really unique resonator effect. I think this is the best Volca. Let's segue into the overhead cam so other me can explain why. Hello. You are now looking at my desk. I'm a synth YouTuber now. I have a desk. Basically, the difference between this and the other Volcas is 2 things. One, because of the OLED screen, you've got all of this feedback. So you can see like, oh, this is where the setup is. You can't actually see what everything is set to, but you just move it. It's very simple to change things to exactly what you want. And the panel layout just makes a ton of sense. Like if you're working through the synth, you're like, okay, I change all my stuff here. This is the sequencer. This is some more sequencer stuff, and also loading and saving patches. This is the effects, and this is just swing tempo volume. And you don't need to think about it ever, really. So let's load a pattern. I like the third pattern. I was playing it in the intro. So because motion sequencing is on, you can just do. And you can see this lights up, which is saying that it's being changed. You can basically stack that infinitely. There's 2 other things that are really important just for the sequencer. So you press edit step. You can just hold a step and you change the probability. If you press this, you can see that there's this little slice and then accent. That's exactly what it is. You press it, you press here, you can change slices, you press here, you press here, you can change the accents. Really simple, laid out for you. It's great. So there's one note that I wanted to make in tempo. At first I thought the tempo actually kind of sucked because the lowest the tempo knob goes to by default is 56. And I'm very used to like subharmonicon, which goes like 20 to 400 or something. But I Googled it, and in the menu there's something called global settings. So you can see 56 to 240 right now. But if you turn it off, you hold function and you turn it on. This loads global settings, and then you just click. Tempo is full now. You click record, and it loads for you, and now you have 10 to 600. Like, pretty impressive. That said, the tempo at the top, it goes out in like these massive chunks, right? And at the bottom, you're still, like, this is by 0.5s. So it's harder to get your exact tempo, but you can do really, really slow stuff, which I prefer. And there's my general overview. Let me just conclude by saying, I'm sure the vibe of the video is probably enough, but before I got this, I'd been making music for a long time and buying synths for a long time, and I'd look at Volcas and I'd go, that's a child's toy, why would I buy it? The keys are terrible. Like, there's nothing that I want out of that. And I went full complex mode, full into modular actually. I still have a bunch of modular stuff, and I would just like have fun patching something and watching it evolve. And after a while I realized I didn't really enjoy the patching part as much as I just enjoyed watching it evolve. And you can watch so many things evolve, and you can set up so many evolving patterns in this. So it's all really simple in a way that I didn't think it could be, even though it's fairly complex. It's intuitively complex in a way I definitely didn't feel for like pocket operators or anything like that. So yeah, I really like this drum machine. It's great. Exclamation points. I like it so much I looked at the drum log again to see if I could replace it with a drum log, but the answer is no, the drum log sucks ass. I've already used it way more than the circuit rhythm I got. It doesn't replace a sampler like the circuit rhythm. I actually got a 404 as well, which I'm holding on to. But it's a different experience, and it's one that's, for me, usually much more fun. I'm going to do a few jams with it now, one by itself, then one paired with a microfreak. So you can figure out how you like the sounds. I'll try to do a lot of tweaking. These are one-shot things, so I apologize in advance. Thanks for watching. I want to thank Catherine for asking me to make this video. Honestly, it's so long I don't know if I should be thanking or cursing you. I had to reshoot the entire thing because the microfreak ruins my camera, but the video's out now, so that's something. And if you're watching this, you're probably watching a bunch of videos on how cool synths are too, so sorry for your wallet. I hope it feels better soon. Maybe it'll feel better after spending $100 on the Volca Drum? Oh, that's the opposite of better, huh? Oops.